Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The walls of crimson lights seemed to close in as Sharon stood frozen, her hands trembling, the world spinning around her as the truth came crashing down like a storm she never saw coming. For weeks, there had been whispers, silent exchanges, subtle glances, and those rare but telling pauses when Nick and Sienna's names were mentioned in the same breath. Sharon, ever the intuitive one, had brushed it off as paranoia. After all, she had always believed that she and Nick had transcended the kind of petty betrayals that tore others apart. They had weathered storms most couples wouldn't survive: death, infidelity, and heartbreak woven into their long, tangled history. But nothing could have prepared her for this. When the truth finally emerged, when she learned about the dirty past Nick and Sienna had kept buried, her body simply couldn't take it. One minute she was standing, clutching the edge of the counter, and the next she was collapsing, the sound of her coffee cup shattering on the floor echoing through the cafe as she fainted in utter disbelief. It started days earlier, when Sharon had noticed how strangely Nick acted around Sienna Bacall. Ever since Sienna returned to Genoa City, something about her presence seemed to ignite old secrets that everyone tried to suppress. She was mysterious, seductive, and knew how to manipulate emotions with precision. Sharon had her doubts about Sienna's intentions from the start. There was a coldness behind her charm, a hunger that seemed dangerous. Yet Nick defended her every time, saying that Sienna just needed another chance to rebuild her life after everything she had been through. But Sharon knew better. There was something more than sympathy in Nick's eyes when he looked at Sienna, something darker, something forbidden. The final blow came when Sharon accidentally overheard a heated conversation between Sienna and Noah. Sharon had gone to the hospital to check on her son, who was still recovering from his emotional and physical trauma. She had stopped just outside Noah's room when she heard Sienna's voice, low, trembling, yet dripping with guilt. "I never meant for your father to find out, Noah," Sienna confessed. "It was years ago. I thought it would stay buried. He and we were in a bad place, and one thing led to another. It didn't mean anything." Sharon's blood turned to ice. She pressed her back against the wall, shaking her head in disbelief. No. She had to be misunderstanding. Sienna couldn't possibly be talking about Nick. But as the conversation continued, her fears were confirmed. Sienna's words painted a vivid, horrifying picture of a past Sharon didn't know existed, one where Nick Newman, the man she had built her life around, had fallen into bed with the woman who had now become her son's greatest source of turmoil. When Sharon stumbled back into Crimson Lights later that afternoon, she was pale and unsteady. She tried to convince herself that she needed proof, that she shouldn't jump to conclusions. But then she saw Nick sitting at a corner table, lost in thought, his expression heavy with regret. She approached him quietly, her voice trembling. "Nick, is there something you need to tell me about you and Sienna?" His eyes shot up, full of guilt and sorrow, and in that instant, Sharon knew. He didn't need to say a word. His silence was louder than any confession. Tears filled her eyes as she backed away, shaking her head. "Oh my God, it's true," she whispered. "You slept with her, didn't you?" Nick tried to reach for her, stammering, "Sharon, please, it was a mistake. It was before any of this, before she came back into our lives. I never wanted to hurt you." But his words only deepened the wound. Sharon's world tilted violently as she tried to process what he'd just admitted. Her mind replayed every recent moment, Sienna's smirk at the coffee house, Nick's defensiveness, the awkward silences. It all made sense now. The betrayal was real, and it cut deeper than any she'd ever known. The man she had trusted, the man she had forgiven time and time again, had once again crossed an unforgivable line. "How could you, Nick?" she gasped, tears streaming down her face. "How could you betray me with her? After everything we'd been through, after everything we lost?" Nick tried to explain that it had been during one of the darkest periods of his life, when Sharon had pushed him away and he'd been drowning in loneliness. But Sharon couldn't hear him anymore. Her pulse pounded in her ears, the air thick and suffocating. The room began to blur, her legs giving way beneath her. The next thing she knew, everything went black. When Sharon awoke, she was lying on the couch in the back room of Crimson Lights, with Mariah and Tessa hovering over her, panic etched on their faces. "Mom, it's okay, just breathe," Mariah urged, holding her mother's hand. Sharon blinked rapidly, trying to remember what had happened. Then, like a cruel wave, the memory of Nick's confession hit her again. Her breath caught in her throat as the tears started anew. "He lied to me, Mariah," she choked out. "Nick and Sienna, they had an affair. All this time, he's been protecting her, not because he felt sorry for her, but because he was hiding that." Mariah exchanged a stunned look with Tessa, who knelt beside Sharon and tried to calm her. "Sharon, please don't let this destroy you," Tessa pleaded gently. But Sharon could barely hear her. Her heart was breaking all over again. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the humiliation, the realization that she had unknowingly welcomed Sienna into their lives, even allowed her near Noah, all while Nick had been keeping this dirty secret buried. The weight of it was unbearable. Sharon felt as if every bit of progress she had made in rebuilding her life had been torn apart in an instant. Meanwhile, Nick sat outside in his truck, head in his hands, regretting everything. He hadn't wanted Sharon to find out like this. He had planned to tell her the truth weeks ago, but every time he tried, he'd lost his nerve. Sienna had warned him that if he said anything, it would only destroy what little trust Sharon had left in him. But now, with everything out in the open, he realized that the damage was far worse than he could have imagined. He had seen the look in Sharon's eyes before she fainted, a mixture of heartbreak, rage, and pure disbelief. It wasn't the first time he had betrayed her, but something about this felt final, like the point of no return. Back inside, as Sharon regained her strength, the fury began to replace her tears. "He always does this," she muttered bitterly. "Every time I start to believe we can move forward, he finds a way to drag us back into the same pain. And now it's with Sienna Bacall of all people." She could barely say Sienna's name without feeling sick. Sienna, the woman who had manipulated Noah, the woman who had inserted herself into every corner of Sharon's family. It felt like the ultimate violation. Sharon's voice hardened as she looked at Mariah. "I won't let her destroy what's left of us. If she thinks she can come between me and my family again, she's wrong." Later that evening, Sharon showed up at Sienna's apartment, her expression a storm of restrained fury. Sienna opened the door, clearly expecting Nick, and froze when she saw Sharon standing there instead. "Sharon," she said coolly, masking her surprise. "What brings you here?" Sharon didn't answer right away. She stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room before turning sharply toward Sienna. "You really thought I'd never find out, didn't you?" she hissed. Sienna's composure faltered slightly. "I don't know what you mean." Sharon laughed bitterly. "Don't insult me. I heard everything, Sienna. I know about you and Nick, about your little dirty past. How long were you planning to keep it a secret? Until you managed to destroy my family completely?" Sienna's face hardened. "It was years ago, Sharon. It didn't mean anything. Nick was broken, but Sharon cut her off with a sharp glare. "Don't you dare try to justify it. You used his pain to get what you wanted. And now you're using my son to finish the job. You may have fooled Nick once, but you won't fool me. I see right through you." Her words dripped with venom, but beneath the anger was a deep, aching sorrow. Sienna's defense crumbled as Sharon's emotions poured out. "Do you have any idea what it's like to hear that the man you've loved for decades betrayed you again?" Sharon's voice cracked. "Do you know what it's like to wake up every day fighting to keep your family together, only to find out it was all built on lies?" Sienna looked away, guilt flickering across her face. But Sharon wasn't finished. "You might think you've won, but you haven't. Nick will have to live with what he's done. And you? You'll have to live with the fact that you've destroyed whatever shred of redemption you might have had left." By the time Sharon stormed out, tears streaming down her face, the strength she'd mustered began to fade again. Her body felt weak, her heart shattered. She leaned against her car, struggling to breathe. The night air was cold, but the fire inside her refused to die. She wasn't the same woman she had been years ago, the one who would crumble completely under betrayal. This time, she would fight. She would protect Noah, no matter what. And if Sienna thought she could manipulate her way into the Newman family again, Sharon would make sure she regretted it. Back at the Newman ranch, the fallout continued. Nikki was furious when she learned about the affair, blaming both Nick's recklessness and Sienna's manipulations. Victor, though silent, was visibly seething, his disappointment in Nick palpable. "You've tarnished this family's name again," Victor muttered, his voice low and cold. "Do you have any idea what you've done to Sharon? To Noah?" Nick didn't respond. He knew there was nothing he could say that would make it right. As the night drew on, Sharon sat alone at home, staring at an old photograph of her and Nick in happier times. The pain was unbearable, but beneath it was a spark of determination. She whispered softly to herself, "You've broken me before, Nick Newman, but this time I won't stay broken." Her fainting spell had been the physical manifestation of heartbreak, but now, Sharon was standing again, ready to reclaim her power. Still, one question haunted her: if Nick could betray her with Sienna once, what else was he hiding? And as she closed her eyes that night, a chilling realization washed over her: Sienna's return to Genoa City wasn't just about redemption or revenge. It was about unfinished business. And Sharon knew that whatever came next, this was only the beginning of a war that would tear their lives apart once more. Morning came slowly for Sharon Newman. The soft dawn light filtered through her curtains, painting pale streaks of gold across her tear-stained face. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Nick's expression of guilt and Sienna's mocking eyes flashing in her mind. Her heart was broken beyond measure, but her mind refused to stop racing. The fainting, the humiliation, the pain, it had all simmered overnight into something sharper. A new fire was burning inside her now. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about justice, dignity, and truth. Sharon had spent years forgiving Nick for his mistakes, overlooking his lapses in judgment for the sake of their family. But this betrayal, the dirty, ugly secret he shared with Sienna Bacall, was the final straw. Today, she wasn't going to hide behind forgiveness. Today, she was going to make sure everyone knew the truth. As Sharon dressed, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. Her reflection was pale, her eyes puffy from crying, but there was a strange steadiness in her gaze. "No more tears," she whispered to her reflection. "He doesn't get to break me again." The woman staring back wasn't the broken Sharon of years past. She was stronger now, sharpened by pain, empowered by her own survival. She smoothed her hair, took a deep breath, and headed out the door. Meanwhile, at Newman Enterprises, Nick was pacing his office, guilt weighing heavily on his shoulders. He hadn't been able to reach Sharon since the night before. She wasn't answering calls or texts, and even Mariah had refused to talk to him. The silence was deafening. "You've really done it this time," he muttered to himself. "You've lost her." His father's words from the night before echoed in his head: Victor's disappointment, Nikki's disgust. They had made it clear that this scandal wouldn't stay hidden for long. Genoa City was a town that thrived on gossip, and with Sienna's name involved, it was only a matter of time before the story spread like wildfire. Sienna, on the other hand, was busy trying to control the narrative. She had spent the night calling in favors, trying to bury whispers and spin the story her way. She told herself that what happened between her and Nick was long over, that Sharon was overreacting, that she could still salvage her reputation. But deep down, Sienna knew that Sharon was dangerous when provoked. The last thing she wanted was a public scene, but she also knew Sharon's temper well enough to expect one. Her fears were realized just hours later. By late morning, Crimson Lights was packed. Locals gathered for their usual coffee and gossip, but the atmosphere shifted when Sharon walked in. The air seemed to change, the usual hum of chatter fading into tense silence. There was something about the way she moved, poised and purposeful, that drew every eye in the room. Mariah, standing behind the counter, froze. She could tell immediately that her mother wasn't there to work. "Mom," she said cautiously, "are you okay?" Sharon's lips curled into a cold smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I just need to clear the air." Her tone was calm, but her voice carried the kind of authority that silenced even the nosiest patrons. Then, as if on cue, the door opened, and in walked Nick, his eyes widening when he saw Sharon standing there. "Sharon," he said softly, approaching her like she was a wild animal that might bolt. "I was just coming to see you." "Good," Sharon replied coolly. "Then you can say what you need to say here, in front of everyone." Nick's eyes darted around the cafe. "This isn't the place." "Oh, it's exactly the place," Sharon interrupted, her voice rising. "This is where it all started, isn't it? Where we built a life, a family, a home. Where you used to come to me when you were lost. And now, it's where the truth comes out." The room fell into utter silence. Billy Abbott, who had been sitting nearby, exchanged a look with Phyllis across the room. This was going to be good, and bad, for everyone. Nick tried to calm Sharon, his voice low and pleading. "Please, don't do this here. Let's go somewhere private." Sharon's eyes flashed. "Private? Like your dirty little secret with Sienna?" "Oh no, Nick, I think the people of Genoa City deserve to know what kind of man you really are." Whispers rippled through the room. Phyllis leaned back in her chair, her smirk fading as she realized Sharon wasn't bluffing. "Oh my God," she muttered under her breath. "He didn't." Sharon turned to the crowd, her voice breaking but fierce. "Nick Newman, father of my children, the man I've forgiven more times than I can count, slept with Sienna Bacall. And then he lied to me about it. He lied for years." Gasps erupted around the cafe. Abby, who had just walked in, stopped dead in her tracks. "Wait, what?" Nick closed his eyes, his jaw tight. "Sharon, please. Don't please me," she snapped. "You don't get to beg now. You made your choices, Nick. You betrayed me. Again." Her voice cracked with raw emotion. "You looked me in the eyes and told me you loved me while protecting the woman who tried to destroy my son. You said Sienna was misunderstood, that she deserved a chance. But you weren't defending her, you were defending yourself." Tessa came out from the back, trying to intervene. "Sharon, maybe you should sit down." But Sharon wasn't finished. Her pain had turned into power. "Do you know what it feels like to find out from your son's tormentor that your husband shared a bed with her?" she demanded. "Do you know what that kind of betrayal does to a woman?" Her voice trembled as she looked at Nick. "I thought we were past the lies. I thought we'd learned from our mistakes. But clearly, I was the only one who did." Nick reached out, but Sharon recoiled. "Don't touch me," she warned, her eyes filled with disgust. "You took everything from me. Again. I trusted you with my heart, my family, and you threw it away for a moment of weakness." "Sharon," Nick said quietly, "it wasn't like that. I wasn't thinking. I was broken. We were apart. Don't you dare make excuses." Sharon snapped, her fury reigniting. "You were lonely, so you went to bed with her? The same woman who nearly ruined our son's life? That's not loneliness, Nick, that's selfishness." Across the room, Phyllis stood up, visibly shaken. "Wow," she murmured. "Even for Nick, that's low." Sienna appeared in the doorway at that exact moment, as if summoned by the tension. All eyes turned toward her. She hesitated before stepping inside, her chin high but her eyes darting nervously around the room. "Sharon," she began, her voice soft, "I didn't want you to find out this way.